Rob got so paranoid after his brother took that Xanax that he would not take any more medicine. He wouldn't take his pills. He wouldn't take a baby aspirin. And therefore, from not taking a pill, he died for afraid he was going to get something with fentanyl in it. So I lost both of our sons, one from taking a pill and one from not taking a pill. Sean was called Smiley. He always smiled. He always had that smile on his face. He was always happy. He was always laughing. And you could get so mad at him. And then he would just look at you and smile, and you're like, oh, Right. He took, now my oldest one, that was a different story. He wasn't like that, but Sean was. He's our oldest one, 46, had degenerative disc disease, had 3 back surgeries, got allergic to all the titanium. The titanium was taken out of him. He never recovered from that. He had an eye disease called dominant optic nerve atrophy, and they ended up taking his license from him. He was legally blind. And so he lived at home with us. And, he was in pain all the time and always a little bit angry and hurt, he really didn't fit in this world. He was better and beyond that. And like I said, after he lost his brother, his only sibling, he was scared to take a baby aspirin. He wouldn't even take it. He wouldn't take a baby aspirin. He used to take goodies for his headaches because he had chronic migraines. And he just stopped. He threw it all away because he was scared he was going to get fentanyl. And he ended up dying anyway. So we lost them both. So this is my son, Sean Roberts. He was 39 years old. And he was injured 10 days prior to him dying. He hurt his back helping his father carry a generator up the stairs. And my husband took him to the emergency room. He pulled his back out pretty bad. He was in a lot of pain. They recommended ibuprofen and heat and ice, which he did for several days. And on around the 10th day, he was working with me. And he asked me if he was going to work the next morning with me. And I told him, yes, I wanted him to work with me, but I didn't want him to lift anything heavy up. Just wanted to sit down and do a little as possible. So that night, he went to bed, said, I love you, and I'll see you in the morning. And the next morning I woke up and I asked my husband, has Sean did he sleep last night? And he said, yes, I did. I didn't hear him pacing the floor. Because he was pacing the floor because he was in so much pain. And I told my husband, I said, well, let him sleep a couple more hours and then wake him up and he can come into work because he needed his rest. A couple hours later, my husband called my brother up, who was just down the road from where I was, and told my brother to get to me. My brother came in the house that I was staging at and had me call my husband up. And my husband told me my son was gone. And I didn't comprehend what he was saying to me. And then, I got taken home and my son had died. And I was like, how did he die? What happened? He only injured his back. So the police came. And of course, the funeral home came and took his body out. Nobody answered any questions for us. I didn't know why he died. They searched my house. There was nothing in our house, no drugs or anything like that. And they never called us back and never asked us a question. So we had him taken to the funeral home. I'm going to have him cremated. And before we did that, I asked my husband, I said, we need to do an autopsy. I want to know why he died. You don't die from a back injury. And so we had an autopsy done. We paid for that, cash out of our pocket. And the autopsy guy called us several days later, or actually the next day or 2 days after that, and said that, my son had an enlarged heart and he had double pneumonia in both of his lungs. And then the toxicology report came back that he died of a fake Xanax, and it was laced with fentanyl and heroin. And that's the first time I ever heard of fentanyl. Didn't know how he got it, why he got it, where he got it. Actually, I know why he got it, because he was in a lot of pain and he wanted to sleep. And he had been prescribed Xanax before, but apparently he didn't have it. So we had no idea where he got it from or how he got it or who he got it from. And there was never an investigation. Nobody ever asked us one question. His phone was an iPhone. It was face recognition, so we couldn't get into his iPhone. And they gave us the iPhone back. And for 2 years, I was just wandering around trying to figure out where he got it. 2.5 years ago, this is his oldest brother. His name is Rob. Robert Roberts. Rob was 46 years old. And Rob had a heart attack and died. And I knew immediately, that he had a heart attack. I was never thinking of anything about drugs or anything like that because he didn't do it. He was on medication for high blood pressure. He was legally blind. He was disabled.
Do you know what eating cabbage can do to your heart? Cabbage is a cruciferous vegetable that resembles lettuce and can be red, purple.
They both left children behind. And my husband and I have to pick the pieces up and go on. So I'm trying to spread awareness of mental health and so no one else has to go through what we had to go through. I'm not here for
just
Sean
a preview
or for
for
my
our
son
show.
Rob. I'm here because
this guy right here, Glenn Muse,
parents
that does the Texas Pictures Documentaries.
The younger
I'm
adults.
going to get him on our podcast. I talked to him today.
One pill can kill.
Awesome.
And that's
he
what
actually is coming to
Rob.
Massachusetts
He
because
was
we're going to
afraid
do a
take
whole
one
New
pill,
England
even if
region
it was
thing.
prescribed.
Oh,
So
that's great.
I lost my only
That's
two
great.
sons because of this crisis.
Come on,
Yeah, I
you should know
figured-
me by now.
America,
You should know me.
and
Come on. And you see who we have today?
trying to make a
Do
difference.
you see
I will
who
be
she
with them one day.
belongs to?
I don't want to be
The
with them
black-
anytime soon because I have a mission to do.
What do they call again?
My
I don't want to
purpose
say the name
is
wrong.
to spread awareness. I didn't ask for this and never wanted to
The
do this. I was
Boston
never a
Black-
speaker, but I'm trying to raise awareness and I'm doing a
Caucus?
big awareness
No, I
next
sent
this
it to you
year
in a
on May
text.
10th in Chesapeake,
Oh, I
Virginia.
didn't see it yet.
Oh my God, you didn't put anything
Something
about
I was
this
very
woman
scared
on
to ever
there?
do, but
Nope.
I'm doing it because
The
it has
Black
to be done, and
Ministry
somebody has to do it.
Alliance of
Because I do
Greater
not want my
Boston.
grandchildren
We're
or
having a
anybody else
pastor on
to go
today.
through this, any other parent to go through what we've
That's
gone
a
through. And
good
there's
thing.
I figured we could use it.
35,000 on one group right now, lost voices of fentanyl.
Okay, now I
mean,
see it.
it's happening every day, all day long. And the thing is, the news they don't talk about it. It's like a 747 dropping out of the sky.
I should have
Daily,
patented a
that
lot
many
of
people
shit that I
die,
say.
and they don't
Because
announce it.
everyone's
They don't
taking
talk
my
about it.
shit now.
And I don't
Yeah, they
understand
are.
it. It's like they're trying to
Like,
kill off
what
our
the
youth.
freak? Really?
When I hear her talk to people
I
about
hear
fentanyl,
people
she's
now,
always
right,
talking to
Charlie?
them.
Not just in Washington, D.C.
I
hear
tell
people
them,
that
I'll
say,
jump
"Oh, I'm
in
gonna
and
throw
say,
punch."
she's
I'm like,
not just
"Don't take
talking
my
the talk.
shit.
She's
That's my
walking the
shit."
walk. She really is.
The hell,
She's
I'm gonna
met
send
with
Charlie after
Governor
you. Don't take
Youngkin,
my shit.
Lady
Your punch
Youngkin.
is ours.
She's doing a
That's
rally
it.
next May, this coming May. She's working hard to fight
All right.
this
You know we're live, right?
disease epidemic. I'm not sure what you
You
would
know
call
we're
it,
live, Paula, right?
but
but I
I'm
know
inspired
now.
by her.
Yeah, I
Oh,
have a little
sorry.
help, especially for my friend over here.
But,
She's my
the,
trooper. She pushes me and encourages me all the time, and so and she follows me and goes with me,
I don't know why
and
my nose
is my
so
good
red.
support system on it. She doesn't have any kids.
I don't know.
but
Like, am I Rudolph now?
She understands.
No one can question that she's not fighting because she's fighting like hell.
all right.
They need to know
Something here.
awareness. They
This
need
is a
to
very good
educate
documentary
themselves
for
on it.
everyone
And
out there.
unfortunately, that's where it's happening. They don't
Glenn
educate
Muse,
themselves
who
on
does
it until
does
it
a
happens
fabulous
to them.
job
And
at
it's too
getting
late.
all these
I
parents.
didn't educate myself on it. I didn't think I had to. I thought I taught my boys everything. They went to Christian school. We were raised in a Christian family. My husband and I have been celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. It wasn't a perfect family. It wasn't a perfect life. But we're not perfect people. But I thought I told them, think smart, make good choices. And I still instill that in my grandkids. But a lesson I really don't know unless you handcuff them to you. And I don't know. They're going to go out there. They're going to have peer pressure and they're going to believe their friends. They're going to believe people take this. And you don't know where those people are getting that stuff from. They're naive. And I really, truly don't know how to do it. I don't know what I would have done differently if I had a chance to do it all over again. I have no idea.
Cherish every minute you do have with your loved ones because you never know when they'll end. And secondly is just spread the awareness. Make everyone know, don't take anything from anyone, not even an aspirin. Be careful when you're out, watch your drinks, or your sodas or this, just simple things, simple measures, simple answers. It's so easy, especially to stress it for the young people. It's so easy to, just take something from them and they don't even think twice. They don't question it. They just need to be made aware and much more cautious. She's not doing.
All right, Paula. I'm gonna try to air all those documentaries that they have before the show. It all depends how long they are. And that way it's sort of like a before the show, and I'll
Mhm.
just let it air just to let everyone know that we're coming on, and go from there. That one I watched earlier, so I was very, very glued into it because she was saying exactly what we've been saying for months, and you have been saying, and so I wanted to make sure that I got that out there because it's a great message.
Right. And I think that one of the things is that folks need to understand is that these are real parents, right? Hi, Christy. So good to see you. I know it's been 2 weeks. We took a little bit of a hiatus. Sorry, I can't speak English. I can speak 5 languages, but I can't speak English. But so glad to see you. I hope you are doing well. We definitely need to catch up. But yes, Charlie, in reference to the Texas documentaries, it's something that when people see, what they need to understand is that these are real parents, right? These are real people. These are real human beings that Glenn is interviewing. And he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart. He doesn't have to do it. Glenn has not lost anyone to fentanyl poisoning, but he decided to do something because of amplifying the message. And although we keep hearing and seeing, especially from the, Massachusetts Health, Department of Health and whatnot, that the numbers of fentanyl have gone down, I think what people need to understand is that they're not going down. What's happening is that some of the numbers are not being accounted for. And, we had Scott Johnson who talked about that, right? When he was on, that when the medical examiner and coroner are still doing their reporting, those numbers are not being accounted for. So what's happening is that some of the numbers they're not accurate. Is Narcan helping? Absolutely. I will not say that it's not, because it is. A lot more people are carrying Narcan, which is amazing. I just did an event last week in Boston at the Boys and Girls Club in Mattapan, and we had probably, I would say, 60, 70 kids, and they were all, high school and college and going into college with the HBCU, which Achieve Greatness is also part of. And they had wonderful questions. They had great interaction with myself and with the deputy fire chief. And we appreciate that, because a lot of them did not know the seriousness of what fentanyl is in. Right now, the police in Massachusetts is starting to see a lot of cocaine coming in, and benzoids. That's what they're called. I might be saying it wrong. So now you have this that is stronger than xylazine that's coming in. And Charlie, I believe our guest is on, or she's trying to come into the room. So today we have a fabulous guest. It is Pastor Veronica, who I absolutely love and adore. And I met her through a mutual friend, which is actually a board member of Achieve Greatness. And she is just so amazing. And and I asked her, hey, would you be on our podcast? Because I think that we all need to hear from a pastor, right? There's so much going on today in the world. There's so much happening. And I know, when Pastor Veronica can indicate this, I've texted her and I'm like, look, is God listening? I mean, does he see what's going on? Because, I think we need to go throat punch some people in DC. And, and then Pastor Veronica, I know, would be right there with me bringing the Bible. Because times are tough right now with what's happening and what we're seeing every day. But Pastor Veronica, I want to thank you so much for being on our podcast. You are amazing. I want to introduce you to Charlie. Charlie he's a family member. I love him to death. He is the person who started this in memory of my son, Andrew. He knew Andrew very well. We have a huge following, and we are so appreciative for you being on today.
Oh my gosh. I appreciate you asking me. Thank you so much. I mean, it's been amazing getting to know you, Paula, through our text messages and phone calls and all the work that you do. And God bless you. And I pray for you all the time because you're out in the field trying to get the word out, trying to help people understand what this really means and what it can do. And so I am right there with you in spirit and applaud everything that you're doing.
Thank
And,
you. And
and it's
Pastor
very
Veronica,
nice to meet
Guys
you.
hear me okay?
Yes.
And it's so nice to meet you.
Yeah.
and one of the things we'd like for you to do is because so people can get to know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about, or the audience actually, who you are? And obviously you're a pastor in a church in Norwood, which I definitely will get to. I want to be I'm a member, and kind of how you see what's happening even in your backyard, right, in your neighborhood, and also being a part of the because I know you told me, so I want to make sure I get it correct because I did send it to Charlie. The Black Minstrel Alliance 10 Point of Greater Boston.
Right.
That's a big word. Try saying that a couple of times.
Absolutely.
And I think people need to understand and hear, because this is something new. We have never brought a pastor on. And I think it's important that people not just hear your message, but hear what it is that you feel and what you're hearing and what maybe you think that society needs to do. I know that's a lot, but now you've got the floor.
I got the floor. Amen. And thank you so much.
Amen.
You know what? So Black Minister Alliance 10 Point is an organization. It was two. It is now one. I am actually on the board for the BMA 10 Point. My capacity is more on the housing aspect, but the housing part is important, right? Because we're seeing a lot of issues around housing. But as Paula was saying, one of the thing that I love is that God has called me into a space where I get to share hope for others, right? Share relevant messages. And I don't know if there's feedback. I think
That's me. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I just straightened it up.
Relevant message. And so I do try to, always make sure that I am mindful about what people are sharing with me. Always prayerful. I can tell you that as Paula and I have talked, understanding where she is and what she's working on and knowing the gravity of what fentanyl has done and what it is doing for our young people, to our young people and their families, right? And then add to that these new other crises that we have, right? So we have, so not only my pastoring Remnant Christian Community Church, I also have a congregation of people that have young people in their families, right? We've also done some work with, and we try to continue some things with the middle school in the area, because middle school and high schoolers are the ones who are also hearing about this. They may not tell their parents, if their friends are taking any drugs, but we know that even at a young age, our kids know. And then fast forward and moving over into the place where I work every day. So if we have a crisis, right? A lot of times with a crisis, people are also turning to alternative means, right? To make sure that they sort of numb how they're feeling to try to cope with whatever issue. So, whether it's, I can't find a place to live, whether I'm couch surfing, all those things play into what's happening. It is a lot going on out there. But what I always try to do is instill hope. I shared yesterday with the congregation a scripture in particular, and if you don't mind, I just want to share it if it's okay.
Of course.
It was Psalms 33 and 18. And it said, "Behold, the eye of the Lord is upon them that fear him, upon those who have hope in his mercy." And what I was trying to share with them is that no matter what is happening around us, there's going to be chaos, there's going to be trauma, there's going to be, a lot of turmoil. And especially now where we've changed administrations, right? There's a lot coming at us, but there's still a place where we can have hope. And even as Paula texted me yesterday, the first thing I did, Paula, was I prayed, because I understood the anxiety. I understood where you were exactly and why you posed the question, and everyone's asking. There's a lot of people asking. You're not alone. even in the congregation, people have told me about the discomfort and their concerns. And the question always is, is God listening? Does he hear what I'm saying? But there's a space where we should have hope in his mercy, because he is listening and he does watch over us. And so we just have to make sure we're in that space. And so I don't know, anything more to do than just to continue praying for people and then share resources, right? Because each of us have an opportunity to share resources. So if we know something that's going to help the next person, then we should share that. And I thank God that he has put me in a place where I'm in ministry and then I'm in housing, and I get to share that information all the way around. So there's ministry happening for me all the time. But I'm always thinking about how the Lord's eye is still on us, that he watches over us as we come and go. And the word Psalm 121:8 tells us that he watches over us as we come and go, now and forever. And so that's hope right there, right? That lets you know that there's hope, and then there's grace and mercy. And that's one of the things that I'm praying for every day for everyone, that they get to realize the grace and the mercy in the midst of the trauma, in the midst of the turmoil, that we've got to find hope. And guess what? The hope is in Paula. When they meet Paula and they begin to hear from her and the passion that she's speaking from, then she's giving somebody else hope for a better day, for something for their young people or for their loved ones that are struggling. And so as we're on this podcast, Charlie, you're also sharing hope for people as you're continuing to do these podcasts. And so each and every one of us here has an opportunity to share the love, right? And just share hope and just let people know that they can get through some things. They just have to have something to hold on to. And for me, it's holding on to God's unchanging hand.
I agree. Well, congratulations on your achievement and everything that you're doing. The work is so important, like you said. And just know that this podcast is, open to you on any kind of message that you're trying to deliver, any kind of hope that you're trying to assure people. Just get in touch with us and come on. Even if we have another guest, we will definitely glad to add you on and add to the mix. So but thank you for giving us this time. I know it's busy, especially where you're at, and even Paula, if she wasn't here, she could be doing something else too. So I appreciate both of you just sharing this time with all of us.
So, Pastor Veronica, why don't we get into the nitty gritty of things, right? Because one of the things that I love to do is I love to ask questions that I know our audience is saying, hey, this needs to be asked. What's going on? So, and you and I have spoken about this on text and on the phone. Why are we not seeing, and I don't expect you to answer for everybody, but why are we not seeing the faith community really, doing more around this crisis? Because unfortunately, we're not, as we know. And you and I have talked about this, and I'm not bashing anyone. I'm just saying that the crisis of this magnitude, and I think I shared with you, there's a ministry here. I won't say who. And I know I shared this with you and with Charlie, and I had gone to them and said, hey, I'd love to come in and speak to the congregation. Let's do something together. And I was told at the time I had to wait 4 to 5 months to even talk to the pastor. And I remember saying to the person, and this is why Jesus brought you to me. I said, really? Because if I were Jesus, would you tell me to wait 4 or 5 months? No, you'd have me talk tomorrow. So I think that's the kind of anguish that people are having and seeing. So how can you help the audience and people to understand that, it's not everyone. And like with you talk about me almost every week. I know, I'm listening, and I still have to go to the church, and I'm a member, and I'm going to start going, and you don't have to, and you do.
Yeah. Well, because it's important, right? It's important. And first of all, I mean, when we think about ministry, so we think about what would Jesus do? He would absolutely say, hey, Paula, come on over. He would absolutely welcome all of the conversation, right? And share with people how to move through this. And so, yes, no, I can't speak for everyone, but I know for me, when I spoke with you, I thought how important it is to get you into a space. And I've been trying to figure out how to get you before a lot of folks so everyone can hear from you one time. But this is the time to step into a space and not step away, right? This is the time where we should be, looking at what the concerns, what the issue is, and then what are the resources that we can come alongside with or partner with to help you do what you're doing, right? It's all about coming together in partnership. It is definitely not about walking away and going the other way, because really, I want to see more people have this conversation. I welcome it, but I want to see, which is why I'm trying to gather my small group of people to at least get the word out, because I think that's what we should be doing. So we shouldn't send you away. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. You were saying that I have a sermon entitled "Never Send Them Away," right? Because Jesus didn't send away all the hungry people, right? They had come to hear him. They had come for a message. And yes, it was middle. They were hungry. And there was a little boy with the fish and the loaves. And the disciples were like, what are we going to do? This is what's happening. Everyone else is saying, well, what are we going to do? We see there's an issue. What are we going to do? And he's like, listen, don't even worry about it. Got this covered. Get this little boy with the loaves. And we began to, and so what he did is he used that moment to remind them that, you know what, we can still provide. We're going to still, so what I can do and what the clergy can do coming alongside is we can provide that space for you to talk. We can also come alongside with some resources, because in every congregation, there is probably somebody who could help in this and volunteer in this space alongside you, Paula. So I would say we don't send you away. We welcome you in so that we can begin to work alongside you and help with whatever you need.
Thank you. And I will share, and Shirley, I think you remember, and everyone listening, I think they remember me talking about a story where I had someone that I had met who was Pastor Veronica. Now everyone is meeting her live. And I had had a conversation with her, and I said, I'm having a hard time just sometimes getting in, even the community I'm in. And Pastor Veronica, as lovely as she is, she said, Paula, the disciples were not wanted where they were in either. They were out of there sitting in town. And I was like, of course you would say this to me.
Yeah.
And that's where I knew that, Jesus said, no, you two are going to come together because I'm making it happen, because this is what's about to happen.
Absolutely. So these are these faith walker moments. These are these moments where we have to stand on a foundation of faith and move forward, because if God didn't give us a spirit of fear, right? Power, love, and a sound mind, then that's what we go with. That's the tools we take with us as we go into this field and work and walk and serve alongside you, Paula. This is such an important, not just topic. We're talking about lives. We're talking about souls, right? And so when you talk about fentanyl, well, it's not just one moment that you talk about it. There's lots of moments that we need to have this conversation with lots of different people, because how do we make change if you're only in one place, right? How can we change things if you don't get a chance to speak to 5 different pastors, or tender, how do we make the change? So I say, as I work on my team, and I've already mentioned you, we're going to keep working on it so we can get you in front of everybody, which is next month, by the way.
Yeah, I guess I remember you telling me. So, Pastor Veronica, why don't you share with people who are listening, because we have a lot of people who, are struggling right now, right? We're struggling with housing. They're struggling with substance use disorder, addiction, and as we know in this space, that's, they're dealing with demons. I mean, Charlie and I have had people on here that are suffering from substance use, and they're in recovery, but still it's there. The wanting of going out and getting something is there every day. What can you tell our audience, or what can you share with us just in the realm that you're in? Because you're talking about hope and faith, but right now, every day, we are literally getting bombarded by this new administration taking people down. I mean, every
Yes.
day, it's not just one thing he's doing, it's a multitude of things where he is literally cutting people at the knees and not caring because of the fact that if you talk about him, he doesn't care. And it's interesting because I had a conversation with someone today, and it wasn't like a text message. It was more of I was responding to someone who had made a comment about someone who was running for office, and this person said, well, I'm a selectman and you have no experience. And I just came to this person and I said, apparently you need to remember your history, because we have had many people who never had experience in political office, including presidents who did amazing things for our country. So before you start continuing to be part of the problem, why don't you be the solution and stop tearing people down? Because that's where we're at today. How can you, or what can you say to everyone listening? Because, and I've said this to you, is Jesus listening? Like, is God on vacation?
You did. You text me and I
Yeah.
prayed.
So
Absolutely.
how can you answer that to everyone listening?
The best, when I think about everything you said, and so many of us are having the same conversation. New administration, it's not one new thing. It's like 5 new things all at once. So some of it I believe is for shock value. Some of it is to sort of numb people into, well, this is just what it's going to be. But it is all chaotic, right? So you hear me say that. So there's a lot of chaos. I'm sorry, there's probably a little bit of background noise. Sorry. And so it is a little chaotic, right? But you and I will see things a certain way. Yeah, things are getting tough and we need a solution to sort of stop this pain. We need the solution to stop all this craziness from flowing out of these other spaces, all coming out of Washington right now, right? And what do I say to people is, still I want people to have faith, knowing that no matter what happens, God is still watching. I know that it may not be the most popular thing right now, and I know some people are like, listen, I need something more than that. But I can promise you that even in the space, prayer is something that changes things, right? And so while people may not be sure about how God is working, I can tell you this, that if you pray and you're consistently praying and you're putting into that space the thing that you need, as long as you have faith, you will begin to see some answers, right? You can see some things change. If you're praying over your children every day, if you're praying over your loved ones, your spouses, your family, your friends on a regular basis, if you're praying through their situations, whatever they may be, you may not see it tomorrow, but you will see something change. I was speaking with a friend who I've known for years. She is a wonderful woman of God, but what she was sharing with me is that, and we didn't know this, that she was in recovery, right? So I met her years ago. Didn't know it then, but she was in recovery at that time. Gave her life to Christ, started preaching and doing other things. But it wasn't just that. She was on the ground. She was still helping, because even though she knew she was in recovery, somebody else was going to also need that help, that support. And she did that all through prayer and faith. And if you when you see her today, I mean, you would never know, right? But it took a lot of prayer, and it took a lot of, like you said, there's that space where people feel like, I just got to do this now. I need this now. I need this quick fix. And it just took her saying, no, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to keep taking a step back, as hard as it was. I know it's not easy. And even though I haven't had that journey in particular, what I understand, and I say this to people all the time, I may not have walked in the shoes, but I understand what people are saying. And my role is to continue to share that faith, their hope, and then there's love. There's love that comes from people around you, right? So I think that would be the best thing. So we can look at the problem, we can look for a quick solution to stop the pain. But even with all of life's issues, we've got to have faith, knowing that God is still watching us, and so he can help us push through any obstacles we face, right? Any problems we have, and any moments where we're feeling even humility, because sometimes people won't come to us, right? Because they feel bad, or they feel like, you know what, they won't want to talk with me, or they won't share with me because I'm in this space. But I say to people, don't do that either. Don't hide. Don't, put your head in the sand. Stand up and say, hey, this is what I need, and this is what I need. I need help. Can you help me along the way? We've got to always remember that we're still precious in God's sight, no matter who we are, no matter what station we are in life. I always want people to understand that if they come visit us, even if you're coming to us on Zoom, if you're visiting us on Sunday, I want people to just come in and know that there's someone there who will share with them, who will love on them, and who will continue to share hope and faith and prayer. I got to tell you, I got a lot of prayer warriors on. Paula, you might already know, but we've got a lot. But that's what I want people to know. I want them to take away that have faith, but know that God is still watching and he does still care. And life is going to be rough on this side, but it's not always going to be that way, because you just have to have faith and know that he's watching your every footstep.
Do you think that we're in the time of Saul? Because that's what's been asked of me, because so many people, right, they're losing so much. People are losing homes. I know parents who have lost not one but two children. And there's a mom that I just saw not too long ago on my parents' feed who lost three children to fentanyl poisoning. And then I know moms, and Charlie knows the story, who have actually taken their own life, three of them, because they just couldn't deal with the broken heart. Because it is true, it's a true diagnosis, broken heart syndrome. What do you say to those people? Because again, we have so much that's happening and so many things. And even I will sometimes say, okay, why would you take three children? Why? And I know that sometimes people say, well, and I think that old cliche, Pastor, of everything happens for a reason, we need to get away from that. People need to understand why things are happening, because continuously being told it happens for a reason. I mean, I can tell you right now, when I first lost Andrew and I was told that, and Charlie can solidify this, I would have literally buried you alive. Because that's not the thing to say. And I think a lot of people are feeling that.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. One of the things that I share often is when someone says, oh, I totally understand what you're going through, but you haven't walked in those shoes. So I don't know how you totally understand. Right.
Yeah.
It is beyond me when people make sort of those blanket statements. I mean, I get it, because sometimes people just don't know what to say. Right. So they say things that they've heard. Oh, this is what happens. But no, you know what? I still say to folks, there are going to be problems. Sometimes it's things that we do, right? And some things you're falling into. I mean, for our young people, I know one of our young people, he came to me and said, you know what? He shared that he was vaping. And he didn't know why. He just started with his friends. And I shared with him then why it wasn't a good idea, right? I prayed with him, but I said, but you have the ability, you've got to decide for yourself that you can walk away. But your parents will be there, they can help you, but you've got to decide that. Sometimes we will make decisions to stay in a space, right? And sometimes, Paula, people fall into a space, you don't realize it, you get caught up in something else is happening. Sometimes it's grave, sometimes it isn't, right? It's permanent, it's not. And so I'm trying to think of how best to share for those who are hurting and those who are still trying to walk through this. Why did it happen, right? The question is, God, why did you let this happen? Or why did this happen? And sometimes it is so out of our control. It is beyond us, because maybe we think we know what the other person is really feeling, because we've asked the question, we've been to counseling with them, there's been therapy, they've been in and out the hospital, and we believe, us, right, who are not going through it, believe we know, but there's some space still within people that we will not get to, that's in their minds or then in their spirit, that we won't get to. And so sometimes we just don't have the opportunity to help pull them up into another place, right? And so it's just happening, but it's some space that you and I just won't understand, that is still in their hearts and in their minds, that we just can't get to. I always believe that there's a space that, we don't get a chance to really dive into unless we're full on psychiatrists and therapists. And even then, I still think sometimes, you could miss something. But all in all, I do believe that people do try their best to help, but some things are so debilitating that I think we just are not able to get there. And our human mind is finite. We don't have all the answers,
Hmm.
right? So we see these things as these eternal problems, but we're finite, and so we can only get to a certain space. But I promise you, there are people that are suffering from these things, illnesses, disease, right? And mental health is real. People forget. People keep saying, they use the term, oh, that person just has mental issues. No, mental health is real. It's not something you just push to the side. It is real. And guess what? It's spanning a lot of places. It could be the person that is working as the janitor or the person that's the CEO of a company. It can be our youngest person or somebody that's in their middle ages, but the mental health happens. And so we forget that that's real, and it's overwhelming sometimes. And for you and I, when we're on the other side trying to help our loved ones, it can be overwhelming for us too. That's why I always say to people to stop if they know. And again, I don't assume everybody knows this, but if people know the power of prayer, or if they have someone in their lives who is willing to take up the mantle and pray for them consistently, even when they can't pray for themselves, then do that. And begin to have someone that will just listen to you. Because in this space, Paula, having someone, and Charlie, having someone that will just sometimes listen to you when you're sharing is also important. Sometimes you just need to get it out. And we'll ask the Lord, because we're so overwhelmed, you and I will ask, how much more can we deal with, right? How much more must we go through? And are you really paying attention to this? I was telling them yesterday, that's like having a Habakkuk moment, right? Habakkuk was saying, God, don't you see all this stuff happening? How long are you going to let it happen?
Hmm.
But God reminded him that he was sovereign and that he would take care of it, and did. And so you and I will find some things that are hard to deal with, especially with the crisis, Paula, with fentanyl crisis being what it is. And I'm so glad you're bringing it to the forefront. And I still believe that God is watching this as well. This is why I ask that he bless your hands and he blesses your feet wherever you go and everything you say.
Thank you. I'm reminded of Genesis 45:5 because it was actually said to me, and I kind of had to read it a couple times, and it hit after a while. And for those who don't know, Genesis 45:5 is, and now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourself for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. And that just, if that doesn't hit, I mean, that just hit to no end, because as people know, I have constantly said on here, and I've said it many times, Andrew's death, his legacy is not going to be how he passed away, but how many lives he's saving. And that's exactly, and then to get that, it was like, okay, all right. And I think that what's happening is that it's like you said, Pastor Veronica, we're getting so much every day. I mean, every day it's, and I'm just going to say it's stupidity. It's nonsense. It's like, dude, like seriously. But I can also tell you that there's a lot of people who are saying, okay, hey, we know Satan's working overtime too.
Overtime, triple time.
Yes, because he is out there, and they're not being quiet anymore about it. They are in your face. They are right there, and he is trying his darndest because of everything that we are seeing.
Absolutely.
I want to say hello to Joan Andrews. I see you out there. I also want to say hello to everyone that's joined us through Facebook Live, YouTube, on the Really Charlie podcast. Please like and subscribe it to the channel. And also, we just added something thanks to a friend of mine. We just added a live feed on Instagram on the Really Charlie podcast. So we're on those platforms, and I just wanted to pass the word on to everyone that you can find us on most of the platforms out there. And want to say hello to my Frequency Live crew that we have a show on Sunday on WNB1 Radio. And just want to say you guys are doing a great job. And I appreciate you. And that's it.
Charlie, do you have any questions for Pastor Brent? Yes, I am trying to fix my hair because this is just like
Yeah, fix your hair. You're it's such a mess. Oh my God. Bad hair day.
I'm telling you, I usually try to fix it before I come on, but today was just, today's just one of those. Okay.
Well, either way, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Either way, it looks beautiful.
She looks beautiful. She's just
Charlie, do you have anything you want to add? Because obviously we have until 8:30 for our listeners who are listening, because obviously even with you, and again, for everyone who doesn't know, Charlie started this because in memory of our son, which he didn't have to do, right? He did not have to do this. And he chose to do it because not just as a memory, but also to give people the information, and all the wonderful guests like yourself, Pastor, who we have coming on every week, so that people know and they're hearing the true validity of what's happening out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an honor for me to do this for your son Andrew and also for you and Phil. This is trying to give back to a good man that passed away and was doing so many good things for so many people, and even his death has a message, and the message is delivered every week on Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time here on this podcast through Paula and all the guests that come on. And it's already, excuse the pun, but it's addicting, this podcast. It's try to make sure that we get it out there and stay constantly. So many people want to start podcasts, and then what they do is they start a podcast and they go on and things look great. They're getting all the praises and then they lose stamina, and then now it's not, they're not coming on for another week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or now it's down to 1 month. Well, we owe it to our viewers that, if we're going to do something and we say it's a weekly podcast, we got to be on there every week. And I try to, every week I have someone that comes through my feed and they ask, hey, I want to start a podcast. I said, well, you got to make sure you're consistent, and you got to make sure that, all right, you tell everybody right up front, I'm going to do this every 2 weeks. I'm going to do it every week, or I'm going to do it every morning. But you have to stick with it because it's so important. Paula and I, when we miss our shows, we talk about it, and how that, we don't want anybody to have a perception that we're not coming on again, or where if they don't see us right at 7:30, maybe they're not going to have a show, because people's attention span is real quick. They go on Paula's page, my page, or the Really Charlie podcast, or Fentanyl Facts and Stories, and they see there's nothing there at 7:30. So, well, there's no show, and then they move on. But we have a good showing on Instagram, and so now our message is going to go out even further. So we got to be on point, and we started it very well with the Reverend on here, and thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
So, Reverend, if I were to, I'm sorry, I call you Pastor. I apologize.
That's okay.
So, Reverend, if somebody were to come on and say, what would your message be for society, for people today who are saying, I'm going to church on Sunday, I'm listening to my reverend, to my pastor, to my rabbi, to my priest, whoever, and I'm not hearing that they really want to do anything in the community, but yet they know what's happening? What would your message be to those people? Because I can guarantee you that that's something people are thinking. Because here in our city of New Bedford, we have about 100,000 people. I know we've lost a couple. And I can tell you right now that we have a problem with fentanyl. We just had a bust not too long ago. The police are doing what they can. Charlie is a former police officer after 30 years. He did amazing stuff. And, when we have people on here, and sometimes we've reached 1,000 people, they're saying, okay, great, you guys are coming on every week. But yet on Sundays, when we go here, we're not hearing our person who is supposed to be the man of God, the woman of God, saying that they got the message. Why aren't we hearing this? What would you say to them? Because I think that unfortunately, and you and I have spoken about this, I think unfortunately that's happening more than we would like right now.
Right. When I think about the church, one of the things, and I said we were going to have these T-shirts that says the church has left the building. And the reason why is because it's fine to hear the message inside the four walls. But the question is, how do we also put that message outside of the four walls? Like, how are we helping the community? And so how do we volunteer time? How do we share our resources outside the four walls? Because again, it's great to hear the message. We should hear that. But then what about the work? How do we, if somebody comes in, or if people come into the congregation, this is what I need. My question is going to be, how can I help you? Which is the question I ask people. How can I, and I've already shared with the congregation, our whole mission is to just go, because the Great Commission calls us into all the world, right? So while it says, preach the gospel to every nation, but it's not just that, because when Jesus left the disciples, he told them, listen, great, it's like, you're going to even do greater works, but here's something I want you to do. And it's to go. So it's not just for them, it's for us to go out. And so if somebody asked me, if people came into the congregation, I would sit down with them and say, how can we help you? What do you need from me? What do you need from the congregation? Where do you need food? What do you need? Because I don't want you to just come and hear us on Sunday and then go back out the door. I want you to hear us and then ask some questions. That's why often we have, sometimes on Zoom, people will stay a little bit and they'll share. Sometimes people will text me after service and tell me that they need prayer, or they need something, or their friends need. And I've had that as well. But yeah, that's my biggest thing, is how can we help you? So come in and fellowship with us, yes. But then after the benediction, how can I help you?
Yeah. So remember when how can I help you was a routine? Remember when it was just a constant routine, no matter what, wherever you went, home, work, school, wherever it is, church, that was something that was so common. And I say that because sometimes we're not communicating to say, just like Paula mentioned, like about help. We're not communicating, and intimidated or afraid or reluctant to say, hey, can I help you? Or can you help me? And so I see some great things going on in the city with some organizations and trying to help. But we're not like we used to be.
Right.
We're not like we used to be. And hopefully, God willing, that we will get there.
Yeah, I believe a lot has changed too. We always say COVID, post-COVID. I do believe a lot has changed, but it shouldn't. And people are sort of slowly getting back into maybe what they were doing. But you can't let the one thing, because it's been a few years now and people keep talking about COVID. I'm like, so that's gone.
Yes.
So what do we do about the now? This how do we do this now? Because we're out of COVID. Praise God, we're out of COVID. And so, but how do we help now? And so yeah, I, like you said, Charlie, people might feel ashamed or embarrassed about asking for help. But my prayer is that when people meet me or meet some of the folks at our church or wherever, that they meet people who are willing to help, willing to, with open arms, how can we serve you? And it's really more like serving, right? Serving God's people, serving God and his people. And so I do get joy and knowing that I do have opportunities to help. And so with Paula, the first thing is making sure that she has this opportunity to share her message and the message of her son with a lot more people who need to hear it, because I can promise you, in the congregations that of the pastors she'll be meeting, they're having to talk about fentanyl. Maybe they're not talking about it, but they certainly have come into contact or dealing with it at a different level, right? People are just not saying it all the time from the pulpit. Um, if there's a Sunday, and this is, I really want Paula to actually share one Sunday from the pulpit, but I think we need to do a little bit more of that. You know, it's not,
Mhm.
again, it's great to talk about prayer, absolutely, but let's talk about the relevant things that we need to get through in this society, in this world.
That's it. You put her on a stage, and you never know. You know, Reverend, you may not be touching somebody that's in the corner, right? You may not touch someone that's in the front, but all of a sudden, Paula steps up and has their attention
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason. It could be the first words, it could be the way she walked up there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then bam, that message gets delivered. And you just said it 3 weeks ago. You said something similar to it, but they just wasn't hearing you. And so that's why it takes a congregation, or it takes an organization to
Mm-hmm.
kind of be proactive and reach out and grab somebody like Paula.
Yeah.
You know, how many times we have as parents, you know, we as our kids are growing up, when we say, talk to this kid, talk to this kid. I've been talking to him till I'm blue in the face. He's not listening to me. Can you
Mm-hmm.
tell him? And then that next parent says exactly what you said. And then your kid says, hey, you know, Mrs. Young was right. Oh my God. I said, I just told you that last month. I told you the same
Yeah.
exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or I went to see the Reverend, and she told me that if I do this, that, and the other thing, you know, I'm gonna be cool. And I said, yeah, your mother told you that yesterday too. So, you know, sometimes we just need some other faces, some other voices
Exactly.
within our community to say
Mm-hmm.
exactly what we're saying, but in a different tone and different voice.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's the messaging, right? Sometimes,
Yep.
and I talk about this a lot, and I've said this a lot, Reverend, on the podcast with Charlie, with many guests that we've had on, and even the guests that we've had on, from former federal agents to the fire chief to so many people that we've had on here, reporters and journalists, and they always say the same thing. It's the messaging, right? It's the messaging that needs to be consistent. It needs to be factual. People need to hear, because, you know, at the same time, people are getting tired of hearing about fentanyl. You know, they're calling it's a saturation. And okay, well, that person passed away from fentanyl. All right, let's move on. And that's where you start to understand in society that, you know, it's kind of like, and Charlie and I spoke about this with someone that we had on. It was exactly the same messaging when Coke came into the United States, and they were putting it in the Black and brown community and then blaming them, but
Mhm.
yet it was put there.
It was
And
put
right. And it's the same concept now. It's like, how are you going to sit here and say that you don't want to hear about this, or you don't want to put your name to this, but yet it's killing people in your community that you supposedly say you're supposed to be protecting?
right.
So true. So true.
So true. Yeah, it is something else, right? But this is why it's so important, like you were saying, Charlie, when we come together and get, it's the messaging, right? So if we're coming together and we have that one solid message, and then everyone's coming with their resources, you know, I believe we'll see more of a change. I know, when I was introduced to Paula, when our board member, her board member and friend of mine, Bobby Jenkins, right? So Bobby knows a lot of people. So for me, Paula, it's like, oh, you got to meet her, you got to meet her. But I was so happy that you and I had our conversation, because I do meet a lot of people. But in speaking with you, I knew that it was really important to get to know you and to get to know what you were doing, your cause, and then try to help move forward, right? Because I may not be able to be everywhere, but I know I can continue to use my voice to help uplift and encourage you. And I want to say this to those that are listening too. It's always a blessing to have people who are in your corner to encourage you to move forward. Again, we can talk about faith and prayer, but you want to also have people around you who are going to lift you up, not people going to hold you back or say, oh, it's not time, or, you're just not ready, or, can you wait a few minutes or wait a few months or whatever that may be. You want to have people who are willing to encourage you in the right now, right? Because it's when you begin to speak it, it means that it needs to happen. It's something that's supposed to be happening. And so you do want people around you that are going to encourage you. I am a firm believer in many people will tell you that I'm always encouraging people to stand up, to use their voice, and just move forward in faith. Move forward in faith.
Yeah, and I think that one of the biggest things too is we constantly hear, and not many people speak a bit about this, but they should, is that when you're called, you really can't say no, because God's going to continue to put things out there and give it to you and be like, okay, I'm still here, and this is what I'm telling you need to do. So, and I think that's the other thing too, is that so many people are turning away from their faith because of what's happening, because of everything. And, when I talk about this story all the time, and I'll say very quickly, and then Reverend, I would love for you to kind of lead us out the last 10 minutes we have here. But I remember someone sent me something, and the person talked about, and I think I shared this with you, Reverend Veronica and Charlie, because, when you lose a child, you lose your life. You do. You are no longer the same person. I constantly tell people, I'm not the person that people used to know. I'm just not. And a lot of people have walked away from that. And that's okay, because they're not supposed to be there. But I remember someone saying to me, and he was preaching, and he said, the biggest way you can let Jesus and God know how faithful you are is have you lose a child and you still walk in faith.
Yeah.
And that's where Satan knows he can't get you, because now he has to go someplace else. And that's what really hit me with that. And I'll actually send it to you, Reverend Veronica, because those words are so true to the messaging that we have whenever I speak. And when I speak to young people, I'm always very cautious of my words. And the reason I'm cautious is because, so many young people today, they're home front, right? We don't know what they have in their home front. We don't know if they have food insecurity. It's a one-parent home. We don't know what's going on. But the fact that I can have youth in front of me, whether it's elementary, high school, going into college, HBCU students, and they're just listening and interacting and asking questions, it's because they're concerned. And my message to them is always, you are important, you are valued. And if no one's telling you that, I'm telling you. And I want you to know that when you think it's hard, just remember that your messaging will make it to where your issue, your tragedy is someone's stepping stone to their triumph.
Absolutely.
And now that we have the last 10 minutes, 7 minutes, I would love for you to end with however you want to end. And again, we thank you so much for being on. I think
thank you very much.
The community needed this, right? We all needed it, because Charlie knows I'll be on the first plane tomorrow to DC, because I'll go throat punch some people. So
I don't want you to do that.
It's so violent. Oh my God.
She's passionate.
Yeah. I'm only joking.
And that's no, but I mean, you all know each other, and so and I do understand. Sometimes, Paula, we want people to get the message. How do you not understand what we're saying? I know that, and that can be frustrating. But like I said, my prayer for you since I met you is always going to be that he guides your footsteps, that he is, you know, honoring the works of your hands and, you know, everything that you say and do. My prayer is that not only is it a blessing, but it's blessing others, that you're carrying the light with you as you go. And so, you know, if I had to kind of sum it up, one of the things I want people to think about is know that even when you're not feeling it, God still knows your heart. He created us, right? He knows our hopes. He knows our spirit. He knows what's going on. And he's watching our actions, everything we do. So, you know, when we talk about what's happening out of DC and all the other things that are going to come, because there's going to be so much, I want people to not be alarmed and think about those things. I want you to pray about those things, but think about what's happening right in front of you, what's happening with your loved ones, because that's important, the things that you can hold on to, because you and I may not be able to affect anything happening in DC, but all we can do is pray. But we can make a difference right in front of us, right in our yard, right in our space, right in our homes, in our schools, our workspace, our churches, right? We can do something about that. Even when we're feeling unappreciated, I talked about that yesterday. You know, even when we're feeling like, you know, we don't have value, we all have value to God, no matter what station of life you're in. I always want people to know that it doesn't matter where you are in life, we're still valuable to God, right? And so there are going to be moments where people are going to work against you. And Paula, you might find that people will say yes, sure, in front of you. And then as soon as you turn around, they're like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Don't worry about them, because they're not supposed to be in your camp. Don't worry about them, because they are not the ones that you're supposed to walk with, right? You have to, you'll know, your spirit will always tell you who God has for you. The people he wants around you, people who will step up because they want to be in front of cameras, or, you know, just with you for, you know, the sake of maybe not just a podcast, but the news, right? Or on stage when you're speaking at the State House, whenever that comes up, right? Because your message is very important. And so there are going to be people who want to sort of stand around you. But right now you have people who are tuning in, they're listening to you, they're hearing your message, they're sharing it with others. And I just want people to know that one thing is so important, that in these latter days, in these days, we need to just make sure that we love one another, that we don't discard each other. We do not discard each other. You know, it's always a concern to me when people feel as though they're not wanted. And so when you encounter me or some others that are around me, you'll always know that you're welcome and you feel wanted. But we've got to continue to show love. There's going to be challenges, you guys. You're going to feel some heartache. The society, you know, the moral compass is upside down, isn't it? In some spaces. But God still has his unfailing love for us. And so we just have to continue to have hope in his mercy and his grace. You and I have got to stand on a foundation of faith and just believe that he's going to make a way. I know you might have heard it before, but I promise you, I've seen God open some doors. I'm still amazed at some of the doors he opened for little old me. And so if I know he can do it for me, my prayer is that he does it for others. I want him to bust the doors wide open for Paula so that others can hear the message. And I don't mean one or two people, but I'm praying. So Charlie, you're giving the opportunity right now because lots of people are watching. But my prayer is that, you know, he just allows us to continue to move forward and move forward well.
Right.
And Paul is carrying a great message. So that's what I wanted to say.
Amen. Amen to that. And Paula, once again, great guest. I appreciate you doing it.
You and I are in competition.
Yeah.
Reverend Veronica, Kelly and I are in competition for the best guests.
Listen,
Well,
you
God
can-
bless both of you. God bless you. I'm just glad that Paula thought enough of me to have me be part of your podcast.
No, please. No, you know, I tell people all the time that I come across, including people that I have encountered through Washington, D.C. You didn't have to contact me. You didn't have to pick up the phone and call me. You didn't have to have any type of interaction with me. And you chose to do that. Not everyone that is coming in my path, as you stated, Reverend, is there for good intentions. And those are the folks that I know, like you said, not everyone is going to be in my walk.
Mhm.
The ones that are continuing to be here, like yourself, because unfortunately there are those who, as you know, Reverend, better than any of us, there are those who will say, I have the calling, but unfortunately they're not walking the walk.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
we want to thank you for that. And Charlie is such a great guy. I mean, he's a look, for Charlie to put up with me for over a year now without throat punching me is huge.
Hey, like the Reverend says, every Sunday, prayer works. And I've been praying.
Indeed.
I said, Lord, help me with this woman. Oh my God. But all joking aside, I am blessed to have Paula with me every week, and I'm blessed today to have the Reverend here speaking her words and giving us some guidance, some tutelage of, that the church is there for you. So just reach out. All right,
And if
everyone.
people want prayer, if you don't mind, if they want to reach out to me in prayer, if people just simply email me, I don't know, Paula, you can maybe it's my Rev Veronica, Rev Veronica XPA@gmail.com. Yep. Rev. So if you share that with people and they share that they have a prayer request, I am more than happy to pray for. If people need some resources, even if it's beyond talking about fentanyl, if people need housing resources and information, email me and I will be more than happy to share whatever information I have.
Paula, if you can, just add that in the comment section. That way anyone listening, they could use it. Well, I thank you. I really, truly love this podcast, and I will see you guys next week. Reverend, feel free. You need any of my help down this way, give me a call, and I'd gladly help you out. And you have an open invitation. I hope we have another show eventually.
Amen. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Absolutely, we will. Yes, for sure. And I don't know if you want to end with just a prayer, Reverend. I mean, I think that would be fabulous.
Absolutely. Heavenly Father, we come before you. We thank you, we honor you, we bless you, and we praise you. We thank you just for allowing us to see this day. And so, Father, as we have moved through this wonderful podcast and we've had this beautiful conversation, Father, I ask that you continue to bless each and every person that's listening, bless their households, bless Charlie and Paula, Father God, in all that they say and do. May everything they touch be blessed, because they know you. Father God, continue to give them wisdom and discernment for their day. And Father, I ask that for every family that's dealing with concerns and issues, Father God, show them your love and your grace and your mercy, and then allow each of us, Paula, Charlie, and myself, allow us to be a light in the midst of their dark moments. Father, I ask all these things in the precious name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being on. We will see you all next week. And we're looking forward to it. Charlie, as always, sending lots of love to you. Reverend, there's a reason. I just think that people need to pray, because now that you and I are together, they don't understand what's coming.
They don't understand. But I'm excited. I am excited.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night. Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. All right, everyone. This was a good show. We had, Reverend was on. She was wonderful. I love that. And I just want to say thank you for joining us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We tried this for the first time, so thank you for viewing. Those numbers are great. I really, really, truly appreciate it. It was all good, and I'm gonna actually end this podcast with my favorite song by Lionel Peter Walker, and see you next week. Actually, I have a podcast tomorrow night on the Really Charlie podcast at 7:30. So give us a show.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Charlie podcast, bumping through your broadcast. Grab a chair, fill your glass.